Uh, this is Bob Ost. I'm the Executive Director of True, and I'm welcoming you to our Friday True Community Gathering. Today we're going to be talking about virtual casting. So much has changed for us since COVID. We all aspire to go back to everything being live and everything being the theater as we know it, the live experience that we love. But for now, rather than fight a losing battle and say, I don't want it this way, I don't want it this way, it's time to just surrender and say, this is where we are, this is what we're doing. And it's time to adjust and adapt and find ways of being creative and making theater happen within the resources that we have right now. And virtual is the best resource that we do have. It allows us to do readings, it allows us to do different sorts of presentations. We've talked about live streaming, which is what we're doing right now. This is live, it's a Zoom live. There's also the possibility of learning how to record things and make them slick and polished and more sophisticated in post-production and editing. So there's all sorts of things that we're learning right now. So today we're going to put our focus on casting. We had a couple weeks ago, the actors talked about how they are learning to adjust to Zoom and how they're learning to frame themselves, how they're learning to adjust their acting technique to a camera because they're acting in front of a camera. And we talked about a lot of other things as well. Today we're just going to talk about the casting process itself. So let's say hello to our guests today. We're going to introduce you one at a time, and you say a little bit about who you are and what your background is. We'll get into more detailed conversation after that, but I want everybody to know you first. So my pal Jamibeth, say hi and tell us who you are. I know who you are. Tell everybody else who you are.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you to Bob and Drew for hosting this today. This is very important in this new time. I'm Jamibeth Margolis, casting director with Jamibeth Margolis Casting. This year marks my 25th anniversary as a theatrical casting director in New York. I previously worked for Johnson Lift Casting and was the in-house casting director for Cameron McIntosh, Inc. And currently, I serve as the casting director for Cleveland Musical Theater, for the National Yiddish Theater Volksbühne, and for many other theaters as well. Those are my two primary ones. I also cast a lot of readings, developmental productions, off-Broadway shows, touring shows, and industrial live shows. This year I won the Artios Award for Best New York Casting for Fiddler on the Roof in Yiddish.
Wow.
Very exciting. Yes.
I didn't know. Wow.
Yes. That happened right before the pandemic on January 30th. So that was fun. And and so right now during this time, spending a lot of time casting for new musical theater, working with a lot of amazing new writers and development. Casting online benefits, online musicals, and casting, right now we're up to 24 performances on Volksbühne Live, which is our new live channel at the National Yiddish Theater.
So what are you doing to keep busy?
Yeah, I'm very lucky to be continually working during this, at least not in the way we knew it, but in some way. So.
Yes, it's a brave new world, and we're all brave.
Yes.
Katy Grenfell. Introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the difference between breakdown services, Actors Access, and Ecocast.
Hi, my name is Katy Grenfell. I started off my career as a Broadway actor. I transitioned to a television and film actor, and I landed at Breakdown Services as sort of a casting director, liaison, IT tech training person. The difference between Breakdown Express, which is our casting director and talent rep platform. That's where talent reps and casting directors utilize the platform to post projects and submit on projects. Actors Access is the platform for actors that allows them to control their own information. Anything that they put up on their platform on their Actors Access profile reflects on their agent side, so the agent can submit up-to-date information right away. And Ecocast is the platform that casting directors can use to, we have two versions of it now. One is to request self-tapes. It's a very quick process where a casting director can pull in a bunch of submissions and send out an invitation to request self-tape from an actor. And a brand new version that just came out this week, which is a live online audition. It's, they can pull in an actor to a schedule, and it's almost like a Zoom call, but it's live online, and it records directly into their casting director Ecocast profile, so they don't have to spend time downloading and retitling and then uploading video to a different platform like you would on Zoom. It's pretty fantastic. We're excited.
Okay, thank you and welcome. Good to meet you. Eve, I had to mute you because there was background noise, but can you unmute yourself again for us?
Yes.
There you go. So Eve Pomerance, enter and sign in, please.
Well, it's very nice to be on this panel. It's great. I felt I did a live reading of a play a few months ago as a Zoom, and I did it as a fundraiser for the Navajo. And I'm basically a producer and casting director by trade. I do movies and I do theater, but theater is really my first love. I'm the in-house casting director for the Mirror Theater. So we do summer stock every year, and of course this year is a new year, a new world. So we have to figure out how to frame that, you know, and how to cast. We have 3 plays that are going to be broadcast on Vermont Public Radio, sponsored by Vermont Public Radio and the Highland Center for the Arts. So we're going to be looking for actors, for those who are listening in. One's a James Baldwin play that has not been produced in 40 years. And one is a play by Bernard Pomerance called Hands of Light, and another play, my dad, aka my father, and a third play, Diary of Anne Frank, which so it's quite challenging because we have children in one play. We have lots of different challenges coming up. But having done it in the spring with, in fact, Jean Fish, who you introduced earlier on, was involved in my last one, Melons. We did that was mostly Indigenous, a lot of Indigenous actors, and it was a really exciting, it worked out really well. Everyone had a very positive experience, and there was no time to doubt, you know, the process. You had to just jump in with both feet. Doing things live doesn't really work so well on the whole, so recording plays is definitely the way to go, in my opinion.
Many would agree with you, yeah.
And editing them, yeah.
So let's start. Let's see where would be a good place to start. Okay, we have a room full of people who are self-producing artists and producers, and they want to put on a show. They want to do a virtual presentation of some sort. Apart from the fact whether they're going to do it as a live stream or whether they're going to record it and do post-production editing on it, what is the casting process like now? We don't have people coming into a room and doing their two minutes or 4 minutes. So does it start with a self-tape, or is there anything else we need to know, or should we start with self-taping and how to use the self-tapes? And how can a producer and a self-producing writer interpret what they're seeing in a self-tape and know whether it's what they're used to looking for in a live audition? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Are you asking me?
Let's start with you, Eve. Yes.
Okay. Well, the difference is, in terms of live versus, it doesn't really make any difference if you're doing a Zoom audition or an audition the normal way. You're still going to see it on tape, right? The only difference is that as a Zoom, you have to make sure you're well lit, that your camera is positioned, you know, someone's filming you, so that you can be seen properly and that your audio is clear enough. Many actors go to studios, casting studios, to actually get themselves taped. Or they used to in the old days. Now the new way is we do it at home, and you need to make sure that your background is not distracting. That's so important, you know, that you find a blank wall, or, you know, you move anything that's behind you for the actual audition itself. I don't know if I answered your question. Did I answer your question? I'm sure I did.
You answered a good question that I didn't ask, but that's fine. We'll go back. We'll get back to my. I'm trying to talk about it from, you know, I'm producing a show. I want to I want to know what I need to know in order to judge these self tapes. A lot of us are not used to using the self tapes. A lot of us are basically used to the live audition process. So
Oh, I see.
we have to start with that understanding. There might be a lot of people in the room who know their way around self tapes fine, but for those of us who don't, well, Jamie, Beth, you have a knowing nod, so
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, definitely. So as an actor, you really have to stock at home everything that you need now for a good self-tape, which you didn't used to have to do because, as Eve was saying, you could go rent a studio and do it there, and now you can't. So what I did in order to come up with, and I can send this to you, Bob, after this, was my senior BFA actors at Pace University, which Katy is actually familiar with because we uploaded all of these videos that I'm about to talk about. We went shopping all across the internet and made a giant list of the best price, best products for actors to purchase in order to make excellent at-home self-tapes. I think we were very successful based on what we ended up uploading onto Ecocast for the industry. So thank you, Katy, for that. But it definitely took a lot of work to figure out, what ring light do I need? Is my phone good enough to do all of this? Do I need an iPad? How's my microphone, especially if I'm a singer? And we did a lot of research on all of that, buying the appropriate background, whether it's a green screen or a collapsible background that they sell on Amazon that I quite love, which you can get in multiple colors. So there's a lot of things that you can do at home, and they are very much worth the investment right now. And you'll see in the list that I send you, it is a varying price range. You can do this well and not spend a lot of money, or spend a lot of money depending what you want to do, but you need to make that investment because it really does show which self-tapes have actors that did make the investment and which do not. So Bob, can I answer part of your question with this, with a segue?
Absolutely.
So as someone who's been casting a lot of shows and readings and developmental musicals online, one of the things that I've learned that I've been basically involved in two different processes, and this is how it'll segue to Ecocast. So the first process has been where I will collect self-tapes after I get the submissions. I will request self-tapes from the actors that I think are most right for the production. When I get all the self-tapes back in Ecocast, I will create a presentation of the best takes of those actors, and then easily, because of the internal thank you structure of Ecocast, make a gorgeous presentation to send to my employer, producer, director, writer of those actors. And then usually for a second round, I will then go back and create another Ecocast with fewer actors, basically as a callback, in which case we will send them sides to prepare or even music from a new musical. And so in that case, the writer would send me an MP3 of the piano track and the sheet music of the song. I would email that over Ecocast to the actor, and the actor would upload themselves performing that. I would again create the presentation and then send it out. Then if the team wanted to have a live audition, I would hold a live audition on Zoom, which can basically replicate a final callback very well, including the actors feeling like they're at an audition because of the waiting room and so forth. I am excited to this week finally get Ecocast Live because, as Katy said, the difference between Zoom and Ecocast Live, because yes, I did take the seminar with Gary, Katy, is that we will now be able to have the session uploading while the rest of the session is going on. So the immediacy by which us as a casting director can then send the session to our team is far different on Zoom than when basically I've been spending my entire night throwing out takes and trying to make a session that works for me to then upload on my computer and send to the team. So there's a lot of different options that we have now for that. Is that helpful, Beth?
That's helpful, but look at it from a point of view of somebody who may not feel that they can afford a casting director. How do they do it? Where do they start?
They would actually do the exact same process, because for breakdown services, the model is that the casting director, in our opinion, is the most important person in the process. So everything for a casting director is free to utilize. So if, say, an independent writer who doesn't have a budget for a casting director, we would always recommend hiring a casting director. They have a specific skill set that they're very trained for. They have an eye for things. They have a knowledge of things that cannot be compared to. But if you cannot afford a casting director, we're not going to disallow you from using the site. You can submit a breakdown to us just by going to breakdownexpress.com and clicking post a new breakdown. We would create an account for you. You would get submissions. You would then be able to have access to use Ecocast and send out a self-tape request and get those self-tapes and view them the same way a casting director would view them. So you do have the same options. You may not have the same expertise as a casting director, which, like I said, we would always recommend that you would use a casting director just because they've spent years and years developing that eye for certain kinds of talent.
Just so you know, I always recommend that people use a casting director. It's just that some of them are intimidated by it, and some of them feel that they're not sure that they can afford it. So let's talk about the relationship. We're going to come back to you, and we're going to see you're going to do a demonstration of Ecocast for us. We'll come back to that. Jamibeth and Eve, let me go back to Eve for a second. How would people approach you about helping them cast a show, you as a casting director? And I'm going to ask Jamibeth the same thing. Oh, I'm sorry, I had to mute you again because you have background ambient noise.
Okay, normally the process is, I have a company called Casting by Eve, and I have a website and I have a Facebook page, so I'm very easy to find online. People just call me up or email me. It's not that hard. And then I decide, I basically read material. I'm very material centric. If I like the material, then that helps me to get involved, because some things don't have more money, some have less money. As you say, right now, most people have no money right now. So I don't want to eliminate, if someone has great material, I want to help if possible. I try to help and try to do a lot of readings. And as somebody said, you can do live Zoom auditions, which is that's another, you always have that opportunity to do that. Obviously, when you do read-throughs of material, you can see how somebody takes instruction, takes direction.
So that just raises an interesting question for me as somebody that I've cast shows because I've written them, I produced them. So when an actor is doing a live audition on Zoom for you, do you recommend, we don't expect them to memorize it. And when they're doing it on stage, they usually have a script in hand and they're looking at it. Is it better for them to put their script up in front of something so that they're looking at the camera and that we don't have a sense of them reading the script? And can you explain how they do that?
There is a way to do that, actually. There is a way. Many people, of course, do it with their phones, and that's a problem because the framing is not so good. So you have to get a holder, but you can position the script right next to the phone. And in fact, the reading I just did with Melons, we had people, well-known actors, let's say, who didn't have time to memorize lines, but who came off as if they were, they were completely fluent. It seemed like it was off book, even though it wasn't off book. I think, to me, I can always tell the difference if someone's off book, and I think you should try to be off book, because then you look right into the camera. You want to look into the camera when you do the audition, and if you're looking down, obviously that's not going to work. So you're right, it has to be, you have to find a way to position the script. But most of the people that I work with on this last one figured it out. They just did practice runs. You can do a practice run yourself and just figure out how you're framed and where to position your script.
That to me is one of the most interesting adjustments that actors have to make. They have to be their own director. They have to frame themselves. They have to know where in the frame they're most effective. They have to make decisions about body language too. I mean, how much is it a talking head? For this particular piece, do they need to have more of their body showing? Do we need to see hand gestures? These are choices that have to be made. It doesn't happen randomly. Jamibeth, just piggyback on what Eve had said about the process.
Definitely. Yeah, much like Eve, I basically am very easy to reach on Facebook and, various other sources. People do email me projects, email me scripts. And just like Eve was saying, right now, I think we're a lot more lenient about, working. I'd rather work with people and develop new projects in this time than sort of make people worry about the finances of it right now. So that, things are still happening. I think the actors want to work, and I like to keep them working through this time and keep everything sharp. So yeah, it's very easy to reach me by email or via Facebook, or via the CSA, Casting Society of America website, where I also have a page. So that is very easy. Bob, I want to also say, so there's a difference sometimes between doing a reading and doing sides. So there's a really good cheap workaround that my students love for like 1 or 2 or even 3-page sides to keep your face in the camera, which is that they actually tape the sides onto their wall. So that when your eye is to the camera, the sides are right above or even with your computer screen. And it works great. Some of them have music stands that they set up just right behind the computer as well. So that gives you that nice alignment that Eve, you're talking about, is so important, because otherwise you're watching eyes darting around and you're not getting that same effect.
That's another thing that's probably worth mentioning, is making specific choices about focus. When are you going to be focused forward and talking to the camera, which is usually the best. Well, some think it's usually the best way to do it, but there may be times when you want to imply that you're talking to somebody to your side or to another side. So being specific about your focal points, I think, is really important when you're in camera. No,
I mean, one of the things too that has happened a lot now is that my directors that I'm casting for specify to me exactly how much body they want to see. And a lot of times it's different for the actor between the slate shot and the actual audition. So like, full body for the slate shot, then close up for the actual reading. So when I send out the email to the actor with the instructions, I make that extremely clear.
So I'm going to cast a show. I don't know if I can afford a casting director. How do I just go to my usual list of actors and just email everybody and say, can you send me a self-tape? Can you send me whatever I need to see? How am I bringing them into the room initially? How do you do it? Do they already have existing tapes?
Who are you asking?
I'm asking anybody who will answer.
I mean, Katy, I think you have a great grasp on that because you see what's coming in.
I do.
Yeah.
Actually, anybody can submit like I said, anybody can submit a breakdown. So if you have a new project and you're not going to use a casting director, or you are going to use a casting director, whoever's submitting the breakdown, you can go to breakdownexpress.com, fill out the form, and submit. Once the breakdown goes public, you'll get an account if you don't have one already, and submissions come pouring in. You go through your submissions and you make selects. You select the people you're most interested in seeing. And then you can create a quick Ecocast. It literally takes about 7 seconds to create an Ecocast. Especially once you know what you're doing. You create the Ecocast and you send out an invitation and you say, these people, I would like you to read for these roles. You can attach the sides right to the Ecocast. You can give them as much information or as little information as you want in the invitation. And then you just sit back and wait for tapes.
Now, I hope you don't mind me asking this, but do you know, because the other go-to that a lot of us think of is Backstage. Does Backstage have a service similar to yours?
Not, they're a little bit different than we are. They mostly deal with, I believe, EPAs and announcements more so than actual breakdowns, I believe. Eve, you might be able to, and Jamibeth, you might be able to speak more about that if you guys use them at all.
Yeah, Eve, remember, I keep you I keep you on mute because you have background noise. So there you are.
Okay. I think, it depends on what you're looking for, and what the play is, or what the piece that you're if you're specifically looking for a particular type of talent. But the thing that Backstage has is that you can look up, let's say you wanted Indigenous actors between 13 years old and 45, right? You type it in, you'll get an incredible selection of actors, that fit a certain demographic. And that can be, if you're looking for specific types of people, that's very helpful in terms of the casting process. What happened? But I guess it really, what was the other one? The other place, the Backstage, and what was and then there's also casting networks, which I use sometimes, which also is very effective. So it really depends on once you've been casting for a while, which agents, represent certain talent. And so you go straight to those agents sometimes, and just call them up. It depends on your timeline, because sometimes you have only 3 days, 4 days to put in submissions, or a week. It's very fast. So you have to do things very quickly, and it's just difficult. You have to work with what with the resources you have, I suppose.
Breakdown actually does have that same search for union casting directors as well.
I'm sorry?
Breakdown Services has that same search for union casting directors as well. We have a full search throughout the whole system for all kinds of that you can look for performance skills, athletic skills, types, ethnicities, age ranges, the whole shebang. So we have the biggest actor database of all the casting services, and it searches the whole thing.
I see 2 hands raised. So
can I just make a comment though, because
Sure.
because it's very important to tag on to this, something that I've been trying to instill in all of my actor friends. So for actors out there, whether you're using Backstage or whether you're using Actors Access, you really, really have to have an up-to-date profile. Because the problem is, let's say you email me directly and say, hey, Jamibeth, I saw you're casting this virtual musical. The problem is, if you're not on Actors Access, I can't add you to the Ecocast ever. I end up having to put your audition in a Dropbox and send it separately to the team, and that causes great chaos. But in answer to your other question, the same exact situation is true of Backstage. We can upload them through Backstage and send them as well, but you have to have a profile on Backstage.
Now, I'm not an actor, so I don't know this. So when they have a profile on Backstage, do they include a self-tape? Or on on Ecocast? Do they provide you with a self-tape?
There's a media section where they can include their reel or cuts from their reel. And Katy, you can elaborate on this for our actors out there, but depending on the size of that media and depending on how many clips you put on Actors Access or Backstage, it goes from being included to being an additional cost to attach to your profile.
With Actors Access, it's a free basic account, gives you 2 photos for free, a full resume, a full About Me section, which lets you check off all those boxes that make you searchable by casting directors. Always put in an age range. I've never heard of a casting director who's done a search without an age range. If you don't put in an age range, you can't be searched. That gets you all of that. It gets you a slate shot. It gets you all kinds of fun stuff. If you are invited to an Ecocast, if you don't have Actors Access Plus, which I think is like $68 a year, pays for itself in about 3 submissions, you will have to pay a processing fee of a couple bucks per Ecocast submission, because we pay Amazon Web Services to host, and they charge us a lot more than that to process videos. If you want to put up a clip or a reel, it's a one-time fee of $22 per minute. It stays on your site forever. We never charge you another $1. So you can attach as many clips as you want. If you have 2 30-second clips, we recommend putting them up at the same time, so it only costs you $22. And it will stay there forever until you take it down. We will never charge you another dime for those clips.
So I'm going to go to the hand raises. Guys, just bear in mind that we have a lot more to cover, and I definitely want Katy to do I'm going to do a screen share with you. I'll make you a co-host in a second. so that we can see how it all works. Sam Berland, do you want to unmute yourself? Okay, Van Dirk.
There's a program you can get that's free on the Apple website for apps that is a teleprompter that you can actually put the script in front of you, and it'll shoot video through the titles as you read them. You can try that if you want to do that for reading a script on an iPhone or an iPad.
Okay, and I think you put that link in the chat for people so they could find it. Van Dirk?
Yeah, I've used Backstage for casting as well, but I'm definitely going to look into what Katy was talking about to see if that's better. Because, you know, I can put up a casting notice like for the reading series, and I have everybody submit for it in general. And then they just, you know, as each play is being cast, they request sides and I send the sides, but it is a longer process. I have to wait for them to send the tapes to me and stuff like that. But, you know, that's been also very, very useful. It's been a very efficient way of doing it.
Okay, thank you. And by the way, if my panelists have anything they want to add to the questions, they're not really questions, they're comments. But if there's any information you want to share, just jump in. Bryna?
I actually don't know if this is the right time to do it. I've been writing down my questions, but I had one that immediately popped up about the up-to-date profile. And when you're looking for the up-to-date profile, because I know that when casting in the room is one thing, and you can eliminate people or like bring people in really quickly, and I want to know more. But with the up-to-date profile, like headshots, no one can get new headshots right now. The media, no one can get really new, like in the past 6 months, no new media. So when it comes to that kind of stuff, how recent are the kinds of things that you are actually considering, and how much is it that you're like, that's so old, I'm not even, like, is there a standard by which you're kind of like, or that's it?
What will you let slide?
So I let some things slide, but not a lot. So what I suggest to my actor friends is that if they're auditioning for something and sending in a submission, doesn't matter which of these platforms, I suggest that they make an at-home self-tape with some material that actually is geared toward that production. One of my friends wanted to submit on something, didn't have anything in his reel or in his uploaded media that was really right. He did an at-home self-tape with a green screen of a Harold Pinter monologue and got cast in this online thing from that. So you can do it at home with no one around. You really can if you really want to. That's what I learned.
So I got this one interesting question in the chat. It says, does haircut have to match headshot? I'd say during COVID, nobody's headshot should match their haircut, their current haircut. So the answer is no. Until we can get our hair cut and styled, no, I don't think so. So here, the one other question before we go to the from me, before we go to the demonstration. What platform do you use, Eve and Jamibeth, for your auditions? Is it Zoom? And the details of it are important to people. They need to know the details. You mentioned in passing the use of the waiting room. So make sure people understand there's a waiting room, and you probably have a schedule so that you can bring people in and bring people out. I would think that Zoom is doable. Is there anything else you use? And remember, Eve, you're on mute until you want to speak.
Okay, I think I'm off.
Yeah.
Zoom, it's very easy to schedule people for different times to come in the room, you know. It's not that difficult. And I quite like to have, you can have people obviously all scheduled or waiting with unmuted basically waiting, and they can either hear each other's audition, but that's not very, it's not very usual to do it that way, you know. I think the way that I've been doing it basically is just scheduling times, individual times for, for people. So the director can really, because I have different directors I'm working with, and, someone like a Michael Radford, who's like a really substantial director, he really wants to see people, see an adjustment, and Sabra Jones, who I work with, she likes to see how people, how people really relate to the character. So there is more of a conversation, and Zoom allows for that. And I think, as somebody mentioned headshots, I think the headshot thing is a real problem right now. The fact that people don't look like their headshots anymore. But on the other hand, because no one looks like their headshots, it has created a really even playing field. So in a way, it's a good thing. So you don't have to worry so much. But when you get on Zoom, just make sure you look as good as you can, that's, and use your headshot to get in the room, why not? And in terms of submissions, that's the question, right? Is that the question? Just how do people submit?
You see, I keep coming back to the producer's point of view. We're a producer's organization. We're not an actor's organization. So I keep trying to push it to, as a producer, what do I need to know? Not as an actor. Actors we're helping too, and we love our actors.
Oh, okay. As a producer, well, this is a producer. You just need to. It's really no different, except that you have to time it, and you have a Zoom operation as opposed to someone sitting outside in the corridor waiting to come in. I don't think it's that different. And then the only thing is the resumes. You've got to make sure people are very organized so that you get the resumes in advance, and you have time to really look at someone's reel and resume as a producer, before you bring them into the room. So it's one extra step.
Jamibeth, any more details of how you set up your auditions?
Yeah, so if I'm doing a live audition on Zoom, the most important thing is to communicate with the actors the way that you would if it was a regular audition. I send little Zoom messages in the chat to specific actors, letting them know, hi, glad you're here, you're on deck. Letting them know, we're running 10 minutes behind, I'm really sorry. You need to communicate with them so that mentally they're ready for the audition the same way you would if you were running in and out of the door at Pearl Studios. So they need to have that same feeling. So as a producer, if you were running it yourself, I would suggest having the actors queued up so you can see them one after the other, leaving a little space in between. Eve, I agree with you. You can't pile them up the way you would outside a door, because the way that Zoom works, it is a slower process. And I would also advise having one long PDF made of your actors' headshots and resumes prior. So that's what I do. I make myself a giant scan if I'm not using Ecocast. So I'll make a giant scan of everyone's photo and resume, do a share screen before they come into the room, and say, okay, just a reminder, this is the headshot, this is the resume. Give everyone a chance to look at it, unshare the screen, and then let the actor in. And all of that can be done very easily on Zoom.
Okay. I think that's filling in a lot of the blanks for some people, for me at least. Again, I'm not trying to discourage people from using a casting director. I always tell them to use a casting director, but there are situations where they're going to be more comfortable trying to do this on their own. So the other thing I want to just say, based on what you said, is that as you would do in a live audition, it's probably not a bad idea to have somebody functioning as your stage manager, the person that's going back and forth communicating with the actors, so that you're not doing it, so that you as the producer or the writer can give your focus on basically watching the auditions. And you can have your stage manager they'd have to have host privileges on Zoom for them to be able to move people in and out. Yeah. So you'd have to give up your host privilege to your stage manager, or you can be running them yourself. But I think it's probably better to have you're going to want your director in your room, music director if it's a musical, God help us, and a stage manager, somebody who is working as the liaison between you and the actors. Is that fair to say? Jamibeth, is that?
Yeah, I mean, I think with Zoom, you can run it yourself without the stage manager. It's actually better. I prefer to have the control over it because if someone else is doing all of that, it can get a little bit sticky. I actually tried it with using my casting assistant, and I kind of regretted it after because the timing between that person and myself was not the same with the team. So to best replicate the collaboration you would have in the room, I would do everything you said, Bob, except the stage manager.
Okay, so there you go. Don't listen to me. No, I would definitely go with what you advise, not with what I advise when it comes to casting. If we have any questions about what we've covered so far, raise your hand virtually so I'll know. Otherwise, we're going to move to Ecocast, and we're going to see a screen share of what that all looks like. Just to kind of state the obvious to the room, do you really at this point have the information you were hoping to have so that you know how to handle a casting session if you're doing something virtually? Let us know if you don't know if you don't know it yet. If you're not comfortable there, if you're not there yet, okay?
I have one thing to add, actually.
Sure.
Which is that with just poning on to what you were saying before, I just did the reading I just did recently. I had a situation about stableness of internet connection, and some actors, had a stable connection, others did not. And I had to be all places at once. I had to be there to greet the actors that were coming in, and I had to also I needed someone to help me with tech support because certain actors, there was one in England, for instance, who had a very bad connection and he couldn't get on and he had to find the right place. And so there was a timing issue. We didn't know when he was going to get on. So I'm just thinking in terms of a casting, having someone who has a stable connection, it could be the casting director or the producer, whoever it is, but you have to make sure you have one person, and that person could be the person who gets nominated to then bring on actors who fall off, who come on and then get dropped off the line. So it is an important thing, I think. In my opinion, having what you were just saying, the stage manager, it depends on how many people you have coming in, but you're going to have someone who drops off. That's just, unfortunately with Zoom, it's quite predictable that will happen. So you just want to make sure that the person who gets dropped off can be brought on quickly.
So as we've been learning over the past couple of months, although it's a semantic debate that I have with several people, the stage manager, when you put a stage manager into a Zoom room in a virtual situation, the stage manager does need to have a certain amount of technical ability. And I know some people no longer think that the stage manager is a stage manager in this situation. But I still say the organizing force that keeps all the parts, all the moving parts going is the stage manager, whether it's a live performance where they're calling actors, or whether it's a Zoom room where you're also handling the tech as well. It's all of the moving parts, one person doing it.
Yes, I agree.
Okay. So we can fill in some more later. I just gave you a co-host privilege, Katy, so you can share your screen with us and show us how Ecocast looks.
I do want to before we do that, I want to talk about Ecocast Live real quick because there's two benefits to Ecocast Live that Zoom kind of doesn't have. We've built it so that the actor can pull up their slides on a Word document right in front of the screen so they can split the screen and not lose focus at all, which on Zoom can be very problematic. So they can pull up their Word document or their PDF or even go to a different tab and it will not affect the camera. You'll still be able to record them. It won't affect anything. And with Ecocast Live in the next iteration, which should be coming out in 2 or 3 weeks, we will be allowing more collaborators in the room. So you should be able to have your entire production team in there with you. Right now it's a one-on-one. We wanted to get this out to you as soon as possible. So in the next level of it, which like I said, hopefully second week of August, you'll be able to have the full team in the room with you while you audition the actor, and you have total control about what you record. You have control over putting them in an on-deck circle, and everything immediately gets recorded into an Ecocast, and everybody can use it, even if you're not a casting director, if you're first time in the system. So it's a universal system for all participants. It's a fantastic program, and it's great. So I'm going to share my screen real quick before we talk. I'm going to show you guys a couple of quick things. I'm going to show you my desktop. There we go. So we're going to show you, this is, my tabs are gone. There we go. They're hiding. So we want to go to, they're hiding behind the controls. Here we go. This is the page. So this is an Ecocast I created earlier. So this is pretending we've already made the Ecocast. We've got our submissions and we've invited our actor. We have 2 roles. We have a woman in a car and a man on a bus. And we're going to invite everybody to send us their invitations. So really all we have to do is click select all actors. And over here on the right, we click invite to Ecocast. And we're going to click everybody's agent because...
Yay, Tom.
Yay, Tom. The internal label is just for us. So if I were sending a different invitation per role, I would be able to label this woman in the car and the other one man on the bus so that I would know which one was which if I'm going to add different people later. The instructions, again, you can put as many or as few instructions as you would like. I'm just going to say, please ignore because this is all my coworkers. And then you do have to give them a deadline. The deadline is important because after the deadline passes, they will no longer be able to upload video. The sweet spot for actors seems to be 5 to 7 business days to find a reader, get comfortable, learn the sides, get it uploaded. If you're going quickly, 3 to 5 is good. Much more than 7 for a specific script, and we tend to forget, we're actors. Shorter than 3, and we tend to panic and don't think we have enough time. If it's a real people kind of casting, you can do it quicker than that because you don't have to learn anything. So it just kind of depends. We also recommend never, ever, ever, ever choosing 12 a.m. Nobody knows what 12 a.m. is, and everybody gets confused. So either 1 a.m. or 11 p.m., but never 12 a.m. Once you have filled out instructions and a deadline, you can attach a file. You can attach a PDF for sides. You can attach music. You can attach a video if you want them to learn a dance and dance it back to you. You can attach literally any kind of file except a Word file. Those are editable, and we don't allow editable files in there. So that's the only one we don't really allow. So once we're ready to go, we just click send the invitation, and it's gone off to my coworkers. They're going to ignore it though. And you'll now see that we have a new tab up here called Ecocast Invitations that I can click on and see this is what I wrote. I can always add to that if I forgot something and just click update down here. I can extend the deadline. I can add new media or delete it if I put something in there accidentally. I can see the status of all of my invitations right here. So the status is from my perspective. So as the casting director or producer who's doing this, I would see that I sent it, they opened it, I received video, or they declined to send video, they're not going to do anything. I can choose to send a follow-up invitation, or if I've added people to the Ecocast, I can add them to the invitation. And if I made a big mistake, I can always cancel it and tell them, sorry, I'll send another one. So it's a very quick process to quickly send off and request self-tapes. I've already loaded some tapes in here, and I just want to kind of show you some fun little things. This box here is for casting notes. This box is where I can put information as the casting director or producer that I want my fellow producer, director, writer to see about the actor. Oftentimes it'll be love her first choice, or conflicts on these dates, or something along those lines. Or you could write private notes and hide them in the presentation so that your fellows don't see. Totally up to you. If you see this little gold camera right here, that means that the actor has uploaded clips or a reel to the system, and you can simply click that and add those clips, any of the clips you'd like, to the Ecocast, and you can see that now I've got a clip in here right already. So you can sort of contour the audition to suit the actor. Since I put in audition media, I can click a manage media button. If I single click on that, I can choose to rename it if I want to. I can hide it. I can delete it. We always recommend hide instead of delete. Instead of, if you are a casting director, If you send something out to a producer and they say, oh my God, I love them, but I wish I saw something different. I just want them to make a different choice, but you've deleted all the other choices, then you're stuck. You have to go chasing down them to make another tape instead of just unhiding the ones you didn't care for the first time. You can also sort the videos over here. You can, whoops, hit the wrong button. You can sort the videos over here and put them in the order you want. It's a really, really, it's a great a great process where you can cultivate the actors in the order and way you want them presented. So once I've done all that, I come to the presentation, which I'm just going to refresh. And this is what my working version of is. So you can see this here is the casting note. This is where the casting note is going to appear on the presentation. I see both my roles here. I can have my logo as a casting director right here. You can put that, or a producer if you're a producer, or if you're putting up a specific production, you can put, for now, the production logo right here in the corner. It's branded for you. You can put a little description in the producer, for the producer director, or about your project. When we've done these for university showcases this year, because they couldn't really do live showcases, the universities often put a blurb about their school right there. We also give you down here at the bottom left, the print log. Jamibeth was talking about this before. It's also branded for you, so you can print this out and you have a print log in order of everyone that's in your Ecocast. You can print that out and have a PDF, or save it as a PDF to your computer and send it out to your fellow producers so they can write notes as they watch the videos in the Ecocast. They can write right on there. It's a really handy little feature. So this is kind of how you get to, this is kind of how you're going to manipulate things. I can in here also reorder the actors. I just click a menu and drag people to the order I want them to be in. Again, I can curate this to be exactly how I want to present it to my producer or to my director, writer, fellow producers, etc. To share the presentation, I simply would click the share button here. I would type in my fellow producer's name and an alias address. The reason you want to put in an alias address is that when they leave feedback, which I'll show you in a second, it will either say katyg@breakdownservices.com says, or Katy G says. So you kind of want to not have their email address all for everybody to see. Once you've put somebody's email address in there and sent it out though, your contact is in there forever and again. So you can just kind of click on who you want to send it to and send it out real quick. So if you've got the same list of producers, it's a much faster process the second time. So to show you the producer view very quickly, you can see this is the producer view. It's the same view. It does not say default here. Default indicates you're in the casting director account where you can manipulate the Ecocast. It's branded for your account. It's just Breakdown Services logo that's here. The Breakdown Services Ecocast is on the weak side of the page. They still have all the buttons you have down here. And to view the actor, they just click on their face. This is Ashley. We love Ashley. She lets us use her media for demonstrations. So I used Ashley's media. While the videos are playing, by the way, as the videos are playing, there's this little button up here that I can click that says show actor profile. And that's going to show my entire resume, all of my about me things, all of my skills, all of my unions, all of my basic information that's public facing on my account. I can also click all my photos and go through all the photos I have uploaded. And I can leave feedback. This is the feedback I left earlier. It says this is where producer feedback will appear on the presentation. So when I go back to my casting director account, see it says default here. Feedback is green. All I have to do is click on that, and you can see Katy G says this is where producer director feedback will appear on the presentation. So you can see an inline text of everybody, what everybody's going to say back and forth about the actor. So in the time of COVID, especially with self-tapes, it's very fast. It's very straightforward. Actors are very used to using Ecocast, and we have an easy like how to, if you need that, I can send you to give out to actors if you need it. For here's how you do an Ecocast. They're very used to uploading it right from their Actors Access account. You can send multiple invitations, like I said. If an actor sends you a videotape that it's terrible, you want them to retake it, you just send them another invitation. They send you some more videos. Back and forth is very straightforward, and it's incredibly easy to get out there. Any questions?
Yeah, why do you know how to do a Philadelphia accent?
I was born there.
Me too. Where?
Yeah. Upper Darby, right outside of Philly.
Okay. I've never seen that on a resume before.
Yeah.
Philadelphia accent. Oh boy.
Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah. Oh yeah. I actually almost got cast in American Horror Story because I could do a Philadelphia accent. So,
good to know.
I brought in for an audition for that.
Hopefully I can't. So give us back the screen, and I'm going to open up for questions. Yeah, I'm going to open up for questions. I think we lost Jamibeth.
I think we did. Oh, there she is.
Oh, no, there she is. So this is to everybody in the room. Guys, do you have any final words you want to give before I open up to questions and open up the room for them to make their comments?
Before I forget, there is one other option for Ecocast. It's called an Ecocast open call. They don't work for in New York for theatrical productions because theater actors hear the words open call and go, oh God, no. But they work for things like people who are not on Actors Access, or for people not for real people projects. Because you can create an Ecocast open call and take the open call link and put it on social media, and people can create an Actors Access account and submit on that open call, and you can get comedians or high school soccer players or all kinds of non-actor types who are, it works great in the regions, it works great in LA, it works less good in New York for theater actors. It's a great option for non-actor actors to get on, to get into a submission.
Based on something somebody just said, are you sending me the tutorial that I'm going to share with everybody else?
I can send you a tutorial if you have an actor, a casting director account with Breakdown Services. It would be better if I showed you how to do it, because you would really need to see the account.
Okay, so one person is asking me to send a tutorial on how to use Ecocast.
I can send you a PDF of the tutorial, but
right.
If you don't have an account, it's going to be confusing.
Oh, if you don't have an account, it's going. You hear, Mila? If you don't have an account, it's just going to be confusing.
Are you asking for an actor, or?
I think it's an actor. It's an actor.
That's even better. That's not confusing. I can send you that.
Oh, that we can get. All right. So, Van Dirk, you have another question, comment?
Yeah, question. So, is there a fee for a producer or casting director to use that service, the Ecocast?
No fee at all.
Okay. So, just for the actors to sign up with it, there's a fee?
If you, as a casting director, producer, send an Ecocast request to an actor, there is no fee for them to submit.
Oh, okay. And how do the actors, do you have actors that are already in a pool on Ecocast, or how do we get the actors? In other words, like if I put a casting notice on the site,
Yes.
how do I get actors?
You would put a casting notice up, you put out a breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd go to breakdownexpress.com and click post new breakdown and fill out the form. It's a 2-page form.
Mm-hmm.
Keep in mind the roles go on page 2. That's always a confusing bit. And then once we process the breakdown, we would release it to the region you're in. And based on where you want it to go, either Breakdown Express or Actors Access or both. And you get submissions, and then you would go through and choose the people you're interested in and invite them to self-tape.
So
well, Cassie, you got a winner. I'm going to be using it.
So I still have somebody asking what Breakdown Services is. So Breakdown Services is the parent company.
Correct. Services is the umbrella company that holds Actors Access, Breakdown Express, Casting About, and several other minor companies that are kind of all in the same grouping. So
I hope that helps. So basically, Ecocast is specifically a virtual casting system. Actors Access, most of us know that's been another resource that we've used to find actors. And actors post themselves on Actors Access, and we as producers can look for them and see if we find people, headshots and resumes that seem to jive with what we're doing. And Casting About, it's just these great people that I love. They used to be sponsors for my audition event every year.
Right.
That's another service for actors. It's not really a producer service.
It's a little bit of both. You can have it's for talent reps and actors. You can it's just a listing of casting directors, associates, and assistants, their contact information, and all the projects they're working on, as well as project status.
So I have a board member who couldn't make it today, and she wants me to send this to her, and she's going to want to learn. She wants to know everything she needs to know. So anybody in the room who doesn't know everything you want to know, save me from being berated by my board member and ask a question. Let us know what you haven't learned today that you'll need to know in order to do this, in order to cast your next virtual production. And look at the hands not going up every time. When I say I'm about to close the room, the hands will start going up. Van Dirk.
Yeah, one more question, just to be clear. So if I set my casting notice on breakdown services, then I also need to set the Ecocast so that I can have my submission sent there, so I can then.
No, think of Ecocast as an application in the casting director account. So Ecocast is an application in your Breakdown Express account that casting directors will use.
Oh, but see, I'll be using that as a casting director as well. So that's what I'm trying to say.
If you're a casting director, Ecocast is an application you will use to get self-tapes from the actors. It's not a separate service. It's part of your casting director account.
So then I wouldn't have to then go to breakdown services to place the casting notice. I would just do the Echo.
You'd have to get submissions first. So you do your breakdown first and get your submissions.
Mm-hmm.
And then from those submissions, you would create an Ecocast and ask them to self-tape.
Okay,
right.
Thank
if you want me to explain from this side for a second, the reason why what Katie's saying is important is because if I'm going to, like, I put out a breakdown last week for a role, I got 489 submissions. I'm not going to look at 489 self-tapes. So I went through all the submissions and I invited 20 people on Ecocast to self-tape. And then you can quickly click on those 20 people by just moving them from breakdown to Ecocast. It's one thing, it's not two things.
I see. Thank you so much. That makes sense. Thank you.
Janet Conrad. Unmute yourself. Janet.
Thank you. This is excellent. I have a question in this new world of the journey that the casting director and the director would take together. At what point should you introduce them to each other? Do they find each other if you have one of them, or if you have a casting director? What is the procedure that is the best procedure now, or does it evolve naturally in the situation?
That would be Jamibeth or Eve. Both of you can answer. And Eve, remember I have you muted, so you have to unmute yourself.
So the question is, just to get clear, it's how do a casting director and director interact?
Yes, or their journey together in this new realm, or if it's different. Or...
Well, I guess, yeah, they'd have, doing an introductory Zoom. I don't know about the Ecocast. I'm not sure how that would work on an Ecocast. I'm sure that's something Katy could answer, but in terms of myself and meeting people, I've been doing it on Zooms, just Zoom meetings.
So, I mean, from the producer's point of view, let's say you would hire a casting director, then would you discuss with the casting director, perhaps a director that they prefer, just simply engage the director separately and then introduce them to each other? Or
the director would come first, I think.
Yeah, no, you have to start with the director, absolutely. Because the casting director, unless you have a very good friend who's a casting director who's going to introduce you to the director, that's a whole other thing. But yeah, normally you go to the director primarily and then go from there. And they normally have people they want to work with casting wise. So people tend to have preferences.
Thank you. And Janet, I think also you have to, once you have that director, and like you've said, we have had that meeting on Zoom and we understand what they're looking for, you can still get the same kind of collaboration out of your casting director as you could in the room because of Zoom and Ecocast. So I'll give you an example, right? My last director watched all the Ecocast videos and said, yes, but I want to talk them through with you while they're playing. So I shared my screen, played my Ecocast, and we stopped and started. And I said, oh, yes, I've cast this actor in Les Mis, and we talked about them.
Wow.
So because you
Yes.
can actually share the screen, you don't lose the collaboration with the director that you would have had in the room. It's just not person to person.
Well, thank you all so much. It's excellent. Thank you.
So thank you, Katy. Thank you, Jamibeth, and thank you, Eve. And welcome to True, to those of you who are new to us. I hope you'll come back. We're going to be doing, I'm going on vacation. Call me crazy. I'm going on vacation. But so next Friday, Emelina Pedigo is going to be hosting a community gathering, and she's putting this together for me. And the following Friday, my chairman of the board, Sandy Silverberg, is going to be doing one. So we're not deserting you just because I'm going away. And I'll try to actually be there as well if I have Wi-Fi where I'm going. I just don't know that yet. So that's it for today. Everybody can put themselves, you can feel free to come back in the room and hang out and say hello. Put yourselves back on video, put yourselves back on audio. If it gets raucous, I'll mute everybody again, but hopefully we won't have a lot of ambient background noises. And that's it for this week. And remember that we need your email address in the chat if you haven't put it in already, so I can contact you and so I can send you follow-ups from Ecocast. And what else do I need you to know? Well, we still need you to be members, and we still can use donations. We're not in bad shape, actually, given what's going on in the world. But your support really helps make us stronger and stronger. So thank you for whatever help you can offer us.